Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Over a period of months, and after the issuance of multiple tickets and repeated attempts to educate, members of the Public Safety Investigations Unit obtained warrants of arrest for 6 individuals.
Have I committed a crime?
Yes, you have a warrant for your arrest.
I have committed a crime?
Under the Public Health Act.
You know what? He hardly looks like a dangerous guy.
Well, it's our policy, sir. So
Yeah, well, your policy is breaking my rights and freedoms.
And they try to nab us at the same time so that nobody would stand up and protest for each other. And they have these conditions that say we're not supposed to be talking to each other. If that isn't communist tactics, if that isn't Gestapo style, I don't know what it is.
To anyone who's thinking that they should break the public health orders, that I've come up with an 11th commandment, which is obey the public health orders. And I would encourage everyone to make sure they do that.
If my faith is not worth dying for, it's not worth living for.
My personal belief is that the province is overreaching with this. Unfortunately, they have convinced the justice that whatever grounds they had was enough to issue an arrest warrant, and so a warrant has been issued.
My ancestors in Russia went underground after they faced much worse persecution than what we face now. After they had no choice, they had to pay the fine, and leaders got arrested, leaders got killed. They went into hiding. But while we have laws, while we have the Constitution, while we have the Bill of Rights, we're gonna stand on them and we're gonna challenge it in court. We're gonna test it and make these leaders accountable.
They'll have to learn. If you want to get a pastor, you have to get him at church.
Sydney Fizzard for Rebel News, and today I'm going to bring you a story about Pastor Tobias Tissen. He is a minister at the Church of God in Steinbeck, Manitoba. The situation he has found himself in is truly incredible. He's a man of God, he's a man of principle, and he's a man whose family has already fled to avoid this exact situation he finds himself in today. As we film this, there is an active warrant out for his arrest for hosting church services and other events. He is part of an unofficial group of 5 in Manitoba who are all issued warrants on the same day. Although, unlike the other 4 members of this group who have already signed the conditions and been released, Tobias knows he cannot do that, because for him to sign the conditions would mean that he is no longer able to host the church services that he performs at the Church of God. And if he does not sign these conditions, there is no telling how long he could be locked up for. As he alludes to here in our exclusive sit-down interview, he does not want to be arrested under the radar. He wants people to see what the Manitoba government is really trying to do to its citizens. I was sent to Manitoba to hear directly from the man himself what's going on, what the Manitoba government is trying to do to its citizens, and what his response is to the medical tyranny they're trying to impose onto their citizens.
We are in an undisclosed location. Never thought I would have to do that and keep myself protected for a little bit because of some priorities I have. I mean, I've been issued an arrest warrant in my name, and so I want to just have a couple more days to get some things done that are important for myself, for the church. And so I've gone into hiding for a little bit.
Now, what is this arrest warrant for?
This arrest warrant, I think the term that they told me over the phone was a public interest warrant for contravening a public health act. I've been always a very peaceful citizen, never had run-ins with the law, just wanted to live my life peacefully, wanted to just be a free Canadian. And so, but last year when this whole, whatever we want to call it, we can call it the virus came in or whatever, I call it when they started pushing their agenda. When that all started, I was forced to make a decision. I was forced to make a decision of, do I stay on good terms with the law? Do I stay on good terms with the enforcement? Or do I stay on good terms with God and keep the church open and keep giving to the people what they need? And so I think I made the right choice.
And what's your latest from your lawyers?
I've just had a talk with them yesterday briefly, and I was trying to figure out if they've been able to get anywhere, if they've been able to hear anything. And it sounds like they haven't been able to hear much. And that seems extremely strange. I've talked to different people, even outside of Canada, and they all just keep saying this is very strange.
Yeah.
So they've done it in an extremely intelligent way. I must give them credit, because they've picked out the heads of all these people that are setting up rallies, organizing. For myself, I represent the church, staying open. They picked out all these, and they try to nab us at the same time so that nobody would stand up and protest for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they have these conditions that say we're not supposed to be talking to each other. So if that isn't communist tactics, if that isn't Gestapo style, I don't know what it is.
Have I committed a crime?
Yes, you have a warrant for your arrest.
I have committed a crime?
Under the Public Health Act.
You're under arrest for a warrant for your arrest, okay?
Under arrest?
Yeah, so come with us, please.
What crime did I commit?
You have a warrant for your
Please
arrest.
don't touch me. Please don't touch me.
You're under arrest.
You know what? He hardly looks like a dangerous guy.
Well, that's our policy, sir. So
Yeah, well, your policy is breaking my rights and freedoms.
So we have received 7 $5,000 tickets on the church and 10 $1,296 tickets on myself. And pretty much for every rally and church service, pretty much, except for the last 4 weeks, they've just been monitoring, and I've been wondering what they were doing in the background, because the last 4 weeks all they did was sit on the side of the highway, monitor us and see that we're having church, and then they leave, and there would be no follow-up, there would be no fines. And I was wondering what is going on. And now we see what happened. They were building a case to get a warrant out for myself. So on Thursday evening, I got a call from Winnipeg Police Service in regards to my arrest warrant. I've gotten a few little allusions to that from some friends that have already gotten that call, because there's 5 warrants out. So they called me, and it was a call with a police officer that I haven't had before. He started out by saying there's an arrest warrant out for you, and myself and 3 others are sympathetic with you. We think this is completely completely off. It's unconstitutional. We don't agree with it. And so we're asking you to turn yourself in tonight, because it's myself and 3 others on duty that are sympathetic. And I can't guarantee to you that the officers that will arrest you at another time will be that sympathetic, and it'll be more difficult for you. So we continued that call, and I said, I've had a lot of dealings with police recently about public health orders in relation to that. So, and I've never had any talks like this before. Like, isn't this all on record? He says, yeah, it is, and I will very likely be disciplined for this.
Warrant's been issued for your arrest. Not by the Winnipeg Police. We have not applied for a warrant. We have not sought this warrant out. This is a provincial thing. Province, Manitoba Justice has applied for and were granted a warrant for your arrest. It's in regards to contravening orders from the Public Health Act, and warrant is for in the public interest. I would like to deal with it so that I can perhaps give you advice on how to deal with this, that sort of thing, so that we can get you through a bail hearing tonight and get you on your way after that. My personal belief is that the province is overreaching with this. Unfortunately, they have convinced the justice that whatever grounds they had was enough to issue an arrest warrant, and so a warrant has been issued. I know that my team, I have a small team, it's myself and 3 others, all share the same mindset that we don't necessarily agree with this. Actually, we don't agree with it at all. But we have to do it, unfortunately. It is endorsed, which means that you would be released tonight if you came in. We would get you in front of a justice. The justice would want to impose conditions on you, and if you agreed to abide by those conditions, we would have you in front of a justice, have the hearing, and have you out as soon as possible.
Do you know the conditions likely that they would want me to sign?
They're expecting you to agree to not go to any gatherings, and not to have contact with, I believe there's 5 other people.
those are totally against our freedom of choice.
I don't disagree with you.
They can't control who we communicate with.
Tobias, I'll be honest with you. I don't believe in this. I don't agree with it. Unfortunately, I've been assigned to do it, and if I don't, then I'm not doing my job, and I can get punished for it. So that's why I'm even making this phone call.
So, likely though, if those conditions are not signed, that means jail time?
If you don't agree to the release conditions, then there's a good chance the justice is not going to agree to your release.
For all that you've said, I didn't know a police had that much liberty to say that much.
I probably don't, and I might get disciplined for it. There's a good chance I do get disciplined for it. But the other option was to lie to you and tell you that you could come in to sign some paperwork that the province was trying to issue you and then turn around and arrest you there. And what kind of message would that send, that you can trust the police ever again?
Big tech is coming for us. First it was YouTube, then it was PayPal. If you want to help us out, go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We'll tell you the other side of the story, which you're not going to see anywhere else. If you want to support that, rebelnews.com.
After that took place, you actually received a text message from the RCMP, and what was that?
That text message was pretty much a follow-up. They said, "This is Steinbeck RCMP. We understand that Winnipeg Police Service has reached out to you to let you know there's an arrest warrant out for you. We want to make it easy for you, and you can just turn yourself in, give us the time today that you want, and we'll make it super easy and quick. Between 1 and 2 hours, we'll get you released as soon as we can get a hold of a magistrate and get conditions signed." And in return for that favor, that's the worst irony I've heard from the police force so far.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing me a favor by arresting me. I just don't get that. And so he had stipulations for that favor. He said, "We want you to come by yourself or with one lawyer, and we don't want any camera or videotaping going on." So they don't want people to see what's really going on. They don't want those optics of them arresting a Christian leader.
And you've expressed this previously, where you just want fair and equal treatment under the law. Like, I know down the road there's a Walmart, there's a superstore, massive buildings, massive parking lots, and people are in and out all the time. Why are they holding this double standard on you?
You know, that's what makes it very obvious that they're targeting some things. When you can go shopping right now, and you can go to the liquor store and go to the different retail locations, but you're not allowed to go to a church. As of right now, nobody at all is supposed to be in the church. It's an obvious target.
Yeah. And we're seeing this in other provinces as well. We're seeing this in Ontario. There's warning signs. In Alberta, they've actually put a few pastors already in prison. Familiar cases would be Pastor Coates. Arthur, he just got out of jail. Tim Stevens was another one who was arrested and released. You seem to be the next person in line. What do you think about that?
You know, I've been there to support them. When Pastor Coates was arrested, I flew to Edmonton, and I was at the Remand Center protesting. And Pastor Art Pulowski and I are good friends. He was staying at my house probably 3 weeks ago, and we did a rally together in Winnipeg in support of our court case that the church was doing against the province. And I've supported him. I was in Ontario with Pastor Hildebrand just recently when their building was locked up and they did a lawn service. So I'm actually proud to be in that string, in that line, and I'm willing to do exactly what they did. I'm willing to be put in jail for this, because if my faith, in Pastor Hildebrand's words, if my faith is not worth dying for, it's not worth living for. And so it's an honor to do that, and whatever they will do to me, if they arrest me tomorrow, whatever they will do, it will only work for our cause. Because now, thanks to you and many other platforms, more people are going to see what's going on. more people are going to see the hypocrisy in our governments. They're going to see how they're targeting Christians and pastors, and they're going to see that if those people are willing to go to jail for it, they got to have something that's worth it. And so that's my goal. I want people to see, and I want God to know that there's a church on the earth, present day, that is willing to stand, that is willing to pay the ultimate price for standing with God and being a witness for Him in this time. I've had ancestors in Russia that were being persecuted for their faith. The Christian leaders would be picked up at church, taken to the police station, and said, "This is the fine, you're not leaving here until you paid." And then from there it got worse to where they got arrested and in a lot of cases killed. And now my own family, my parents and my brothers, we lived in Germany before we moved to Canada, and we were going through difficult times there because of homeschooling. Believe it or not, homeschooling was not legal in Germany. And they have taken us to court numerous times. My parents had a really hard time. In my childhood, I've faced a lot of trauma. And at one point, they have taken my parents' rights away to take care of us children, and we would always be scared that police and child agency would show up and take us away. For about a year and a half, my mom moved to another part in Germany with us boys, and my dad would come to visit every 2 weeks or so. And because in that part it was allowed, but it was a back and forth struggle, and they had good lawyers. Finally, the lawyers approached them and said, "Every law you have, every right you have, they're slowly taking away." And at one point they said, "We can't support you anymore. You're gonna have to move." So that's what we ended up doing. And but I'm so thankful. My parents taught me well. They taught me to stand up for what's right, stand up for my convictions, and make sure that first of all I'm pleasing God.
And now that was when you were a child from Germany, and now that you're an adult and you're actually a leader of a religious service, are you worried about having that same fate and getting arrested, and perhaps even worse? I mean, obviously there's a warrant out for your arrest right now. Do you think it's going to escalate like it did in Russia?
You never know. I've heard other people say that the same spirit that was in the Romans when they said the Christians to the lions back in Nero's time, that same spirit is causing people that hate us to say what they're saying now. These people should be thrown in jail. It's that same spirit. It wouldn't take much time and we would be back at that. I'm not indicating that we might face that. I'm not saying that, but that same potential is there. That same hatred.
Do you fear having to go underground like we've seen some of the other churches have to go underground? Like with Pastor Coates, his church is now underground. Is that something you're worried about for yours?
At this point, it could always happen. And we'll have to deal with it as it comes. I'm not holding it against anybody for doing that. But based on my history, I'm not prepared to go underground yet. Because my ancestors in Russia went underground after they faced much worse persecution than what we face now. After they had no choice, they had to pay the fine, and leaders got arrested, leaders got killed. They went into hiding. And we might come up to that time yet, I'm not sure. But while we have laws, while we have the Constitution, while we have the Bill of Rights, we're going to stand on them and we're going to challenge it in court. We're going to test it and make these leaders accountable, that there is a constitution, that we have human rights, and most of all make them accountable and attempt to reach their conscience that there is a God who's in control of all of this.
Tomorrow you're still going to be hosting church service at the Church of God Restoration. What is going to happen there?
It's really unknown. I'm planning on, as long as I'm still free, We're gonna have a worship service like normal tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And I know that the Winnipeg Police Service is gonna work together with the RCMP, so I expect both of those forces, maybe even the Steinbach Sheriffs, to be there, and public health to be there, probably the mainstream media to be there. And you know, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I know they'll want to get me as soon as they can because they've gotten all 4 others, but I'm really glad that Rebel is going to be there to cover it. I just got a message today from a reporter. He's from CBC, and he asked me, would you want to come on a Zoom with me to talk about your warrant? He didn't say that it was CBC. I just know that reporter's name, that he works for CBC. And I says, not for CBC. If you want more details, you're gonna have to follow Rebel News, the Counter Signal, and other media like that. So that was the end of that conversation. If worse comes to worse, they might come into our building, because I think if they have a warrant, they can just walk in.
Yeah.
And if somebody obstructs them, they can arrest them as well.
With the potential of you being separated from your church, what will happen to the church in that time?
The church will continue to gather. We have another pastor, we have other leaders. When one gets taken away, the next one will rise up, and we will continue to gather and worship God like we should.
All right, Tobias, where are we currently?
We are right now in the church building.
And I see behind you the time. It is fairly late for church service. So what is going on here?
You know, I was in contact with my lawyers, and they said you inform the police that you're going to be at church tomorrow, and if you want to successfully make it there, you're going to have to beat them to it, because they're expecting the police might be out early to make sure they can get me before I can make it to church, because they don't like to do the arrest in front of a crowd. So they're going to do all that it's in their power to be able to secure me before I can make it here. So we beat them to it. We're gonna literally camp out this night in the church building and see how tomorrow turns out.
Good morning, Rebels. Today is the day where Pastor Tobias is set to have his services at the Church of God Restoration in Steinbach, Manitoba. Given the situation with regards to the Manitoba government and Premier Pallister and the fact that there's actually a warrant out for Pastor Tobias's arrest, he actually slept in the church last night just because they were worried in the morning that officers of the law would try and prevent them from attending the service, whether it be with blockades on the highway so that nobody could come to the church, or if they were just going to find which car he might be in and tag him like they did to Pastor Arthur in Alberta. It seems like they don't want to do this in front of a crowd. They really don't want the optics of arresting a pastor, which they shouldn't be arresting in the first place. In a few hours, congregants should start to arrive, and hopefully there aren't going to be any issues with them being blocked off from attending the church, although this is something that happened previously. So really, who's to say what's going to happen today? Will they be as spiteful, the officers, as they have been in the past, or is this going to be Sunday service? We'll find out. All right, Pastor Tobias, it's 10 after 8. Church service is set to be at 10:30. What is the current situation here?
So we have successfully spent the night here without being raided, and we are expecting a good turnout for the service here this morning at 10:30 and happening in about just under 2.5 hours. And just received a little word that they already have seen an undercover police pass by, so they are probably watching already what's going on. So it's good that we made the decision to come here last night and prevent them from taking us before we had the chance to be here for this morning's service. If things will intensify and an arrest will happen, I'm really glad that you as Rebel are here to cover this story, and we'll get the word out. We'll let people know what's going on. We must show the hypocrisy in our governments. They're not concerned about our health. They want to clamp down on our rights, just like we said earlier, to replace God for the people, which is great wickedness. So thank you so much again for supporting and sharing this. The truth will prevail and God will win. Now is the time to stand with God.
We appreciate the support so much, and I would really like to start off by saying that this is not really about me. This is about God. It would be a shame on us if we would let God down right now. And for this moment, I've gone into hiding for the last couple days because I wanted to be here today. But after that, but I'm so encouraged that God is in control. Yes, sir. God holds the future in His hands. Yes. He knows what we can bear, and He knows whatever they may choose to do, He's going to get glory out of it. There is different perspectives. When you look at a story or you look at something and you have a different perspective of that incident than somebody else. We see that in media. You know, we see something going on, then we see CTV and we see CBC, we see Global, we see City News, and everybody's got their perspective. You know, and then we see Rebel. By the way, I'm glad we got Rebel in the house today.
All right, things have gone well here at the Church of God. Service went on as usual. There wasn't actually any law enforcement of any kind outside on the highway as we've seen in previous weeks and as they've had to deal with in previous weeks. Though, as you can see across the highway, there's Global News, there's CBC, and there's a couple other vehicles. I'm not sure what other media agencies they would be with. And down the road, there is actually an unmarked vehicle, which the churchgoers suspect is police because this is a common occurrence for them.
So we did have a church service, and an amazing one at that. It was so refreshing, so beautiful. We had an amazing crowd of supporters out, way bigger than I had expected, and it was wonderful. You know, I did not know if I would be able to end the service unscathed, but we did. Mainstream media is hanging out on the side of the street. I saw some police, but they're not venturing onto the property. So if they want to come and arrest me, they'll have to do it inside here. And if not, we'll not give them the opportunity otherwise. So I guess that means we'll go back to avoiding them for the next week and give them another chance next Sunday. They'll have to learn. If you want to get a pastor, you have to get him at church.
Now, why do you think they decided to hold off for now?
They don't like the cameras. That's really the main reason. They don't want video footage of this. They know it's wrong. They know it's bad, and so they want to rather get me in a vehicle when I leave or something, but they really don't want any footage of them taking a preacher out of his congregation, out of the building.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but you're actually going to be going back into hiding for a week, until next service. What do you make of that?
Unfortunately, I will. It's not easy. It's an uncertainty, but like I said earlier, I don't want to give them an easy time getting me. I don't want to give them the pleasure of them coming and picking me up at my house alone for reasons of worshiping and expressing my freedoms. They will have to come and take me out of service.
All right. So, and I guess the next time that would potentially happen is next Sunday.
Potentially.
So you're going to be hosting church next Sunday, and you're prepared to do that.
I'm prepared to do it all over again, and we're so glad that we had you here for this Sunday, that we had Rebel here, and we'll continue our stand. We're not going back underground because we're afraid. We're going back underground because we want the world to see those optics of them taking a leader, a religious leader, out of an assembly of people.
Wow. What an incredible situation. Never in my life would I have expected that a pastor in Canada would have to go into hiding in order to perform his church services. That said, he isn't exactly hiding from authorities. He's told them when and he's told them where he'll be. And if authorities do want to arrest him, well, it'll have to be at the Church of God. That way the world can see just how petty Premier Pallister and the Manitoba government really are. And as I speak, Pastor Tobias will be remaining in hiding until his next Sunday service. Now, this is still an evolving situation, so stay tuned for updates that are going to be coming soon. If you want to continue following this story, stay tuned and we'll show you what's really going on in Manitoba, the side of the story the mainstream media doesn't want to show you. For Rebel News, I'm Sydney Fizzard. Big tech is coming for us. First it was YouTube, then it was PayPal. If you want to continue seeing real journalism like what we're doing here at Rebel News, go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We'll show you the side of the story that you're not going to see anywhere else.